It's time to talk crypto again, right? So, if you're following the approach, I'm doing a lot of cycle count analysis on Bitcoin and crypto. And today it's time to update where we are in the Bitcoin crypto cycle. So, let's talk.
From the mind of Lars Fontinen, the most advanced cycle analysis, hot off the press.
Yeah, another week. Thanks for joining us here on Cycles TV. I'm Lars Fontinen, and we have once a week an episode where we talk about cycles in financial markets. Today, where we use crypto and we will update the status quo on the cycle on Bitcoin. So before I update the current status quo with today's measures, I would like to quickly recap where we are coming from, because we often review Bitcoin on crypto here on that channel, and the nominal count has not really changed. So if you follow the count and the structure, then you will not be surprised what I will show you today. For all the others, this might be just a quick primer in the beginning. So we are live again. Thanks Dale, Arun, for being here right on time. I mean, we had a time shift here in Europe this weekend. So thanks for still being with us live and on time. All right, let's start with a quick primer first. So for those who are not so familiar with the history of Bitcoin prices, let's start in the upper left corner here, 2011. And what you see here is that the chart at each point in time, so this is the exponential move 2011, from Bitcoin at 20 cent going up to 28 US dollar. This was already a parabolic move from that point in time. Moving forward to 2013, where Bitcoin moved from 2 US dollar to 230 US dollar. This was another parabolic up move. Fast forward to 2014, from Bitcoin trading at 60 US dollar, moving up to $1,200, another parabolic up move. 2014, moving forward 2017, where we have gone from 165 US dollar to 20K in Bitcoin prices, 2017. 2021, where we have gone from 3.5K up to 65K. And now we are here in 2025, where we moved from 16K from January 2023 up to 120K as of today. So if you just view the parabolic moves of Bitcoin in those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 examples up to 2021, we don't know how it will continue in 2025. But you see that we had already 4 parabolic up moves in that currency. And by the way, after that up move, 2011, Bitcoin dropped 90%. 2013, Bitcoin dropped 70%. 2014, 90% drop after the top. 17, 80% drop after the parabolic top. 2021, minus 70% after the drop. So you need to be prepared that timing is everything. Trading parabolic up moves is the most risky topic you can think about, because if you enter too late in that parabolic up move and you get into a correction of 80 to 90%, then you will be destroyed, and you won't have that to be happening. So there are always two stories to be told. So we might just hear the stories from those guys which have been entered Bitcoin before the parabolic up move started, a long time before that started, and they are telling us their stories about, I made 10 times of my investment in Bitcoin during that parabolic up moves. But I think there are the same amount of stories of people who invested in Bitcoin right at the top of that parabolic up move, who lost 90% of their income, but they will not tell their story in public. So that's by design, how parabolic up moves and down moves, as you have seen, work. And be careful with the media attention. If you only listen to those stories who tell you that they have been part of that upswing and that might be repeat over time, you need to be careful. Look at that chart and you will see that timing is crucial. And that's why we're here. I mean, cycle analysis is timing. So there's the song or the music. What goes up must come down. So, and if you know that historical pattern, we did a time cycle analysis prior to all those parabolic moves you see here. So we did an analysis before those parabolic tops happened in those markets, and we found a very, very repeating pattern of cycles. And this is now one of the main charts here. I will just summarize, and then it's all about the context here. So for each of the parabolic move you have just seen, there is a rhythm of 5 cycle repetitions up front to the final top of that parabolic up move of Bitcoin. And this cycle, which needs 5 repetitions, is a 200 days cycle. And this cycle is visible in each of those parabolic up moves I've just shown you at that time prior to the 5th repetition. So you can always identify this cycle 3 to 6 months ahead of time. So it's nothing you can only see after the fact. That cycle is visible before the final top in this 5th repetition arrives. Not only that, there is also a recurring pattern in the following down move, which is 3 repetitions of the cycle connecting their bottoms. So the same 200-day cycle requires 3 repetitions, 1, 2, 3, until the final bottom is reached. That's the count of 5 and the count of 3. I teach here also in our cycles workshop in January, and I showed that pattern already, I think 2 or 3 years ago. So we are following this pattern now quite a long time. And just for our memory and our brains, you can maybe try to remember the song "Fly Me to the Moon," and "Road to Hell." And that's the point you need to remember in regards of timing. You should be aware of what the music is playing. If the music is playing "Fly Me to the Moon," you're good to go. You're more or less safe. But if "Fly Me to the Moon" stops, if the music is going out, you should dance near the door, because then you need to exit the party quick, because the music will shift and the "Road to Hell" will start to play, and you don't want to dance when "Road to Hell" is on. So that's maybe just the other story to keep this in mind. So that's a lot of research which has gone into that analysis and that framework, but this is just for those who are not aware of that pattern. So now let's fast forward to this year's price action. All right. So in January, we have executed a 3 days workshop on Bitcoin. And this was the analysis we did in January 14th here in the 3 days Bitcoin workshop we hosted here at the foundation. So this was the live analysis we did together, and I will update this, but I will just show you what we have seen here in January. And that's why I'm saying it's often important. You don't need to update this every day because the forecast might not change so much here. So what do we see here on the screen? So we have a cycle with a length of 194 days. So the analysis was done on the 14th of January at the time we did the Bitcoin Live workshop. The cycle spectrum shows us the cycle with a length of 194 days. We are aware of that this is anyhow a cycle which was present at each important parabolic move, before and after. And our features here in qualifying a valid cycle in regards to stability is bold here. So it's above 0.5. So not the high stability, but it qualifies as a high stability, so very low variability. And it also qualifies in the ranking, not the highest ranking, but our two mandatory criteria are met. So it is a stable cycle according to our criteria, and it is a top ranked cycle based on the visual shape on the spectrum. That's what our AI ranking gives us. Not the highest, but now here the knowledge and the historical movement of those cycles is important. As I said, we did an analysis of all prior parabolic moves, so we are well aware that the nominal 200-day cycle is important at those times. All right, so, but that's just the simple story with just one cycle here. We put that cycle to the chart. This was our prediction here back in January. Let's see what price did at that point of time. So we had the down move. Not only did we have the down move here, we more or less predicted the expected end of that down move here in March, April this year, with an upswing here making another all-time high with 110, 120 in Bitcoin. Yeah, so pretty nice. I think everyone who did the workshop, I think that's nice to get out of that. It was already also with in combination with the cyclic sell here. So that short and that possible entry timing window we had identified quite ahead of time here back in January. All right, so we have been spot on in January, and we predicted another top of that 200-day cycle in summer this year. And now let's move forward in time to where we are at today. So let's zoom in a little bit. So here we are. So I will update that analysis. So the light blue data is out of sample. So that's not part of the analysis. And as I always teach, you should not use a static cycle more than the next expected turning point here. So at that point in time, you anyhow need to update your analysis, whatever you did. So that here cannot be trusted anyhow. But and now the count of 5 and 3 comes into play. Setting this into the context of the count of 5 and the count of 3, I mean, we not only could answer the question, okay, here we would expect maybe an interim low or continuation of the downward pressure here, and then another top here in the summer of this year. We have been aware of that count because we know that this count was number 4. So from our continuation of that cycle, we have been well aware that the cycle count of the count of 5 and count of 3 was going this way here. So, and that's where we showed what we showed very often here on that channel. So by not only identifying the nominal 200-day cycle at that point in time, predicting here that bottoming window in that area ahead of time, we also have been aware that there's an upcoming count of 5 coming in this summer here, which would lead at least to another high in Bitcoin. Yeah, so I mean, we cannot really predict how fast or the magnitude of the price swing. This is where cycles don't guide us in terms of price magnitude, but we would expect from the count of 5 that we might see even a higher high during, let's say here, summer, July 2025. This is what happened. This is what happened. I mean, not that parabolic, but we had the 120 coming in with the key high in Bitcoin right now. So this is what we have seen in January this year. This is what I teach in specific in our Bitcoin deep dive workshop. But now more important, what does this mean now looking into the future from this point? So we now passed the summer period. I will update this in a second. I will just stay here with you for a moment. Even to read that cycle that way here, we had that upswing into this period. And from that point in time here, so from the cycle top, we have now only moved sideways. Yeah, so the expected downswing of that cycle here worked out in a way that it stopped the previous up move in Bitcoin. Yeah, so stopping that strong up move and then moving sideways is a valid downward phase in that cycle, because again, we cannot predict magnitude of a move, but we can, or what cycles are for, to predict a change in trend. Going from an uptrend to a sideways move is exactly at that point of time what happened. So we are in that, and now I think maybe you can count one on one on your own. So what does it mean? So we arrived at point number 5. So the count of 5 has been completed this summer, and the first down cycle now started from summer this year, which led just to a sideways move in Bitcoin, and we need to be sure to US dollar. Yeah, so just the pair Bitcoin measured in US dollar is moving sideways since summer. So following the higher level count, this means that we should dance, or hopefully we have danced close to the door, because Fly Me to the Moon is not playing anymore. The music has stopped and a new song is on. And that song is called Road to Hell. So that's the next cyclic pattern. At least if history repeats. No one knows. I don't know. But if history repeats in that pattern, we will see another cycle count in the 200-day cycle, which is now a major shift in Bitcoin to US dollar to the downside. All right, but let's update our cycle analysis to the latest day. So this was just the count. Let's clean up the chart, or no, let's update the cycle analysis to the latest point. Here we go. So I have now included the latest point, which is today. Yeah, today's Bitcoin price is here. And we see again, and very clear in that sense, that we have cycle with a length of 192, yeah, which is showing up here, highest amplitude. The stability score is very high. There's one caveat with that, because from the shape in the spectrum, yeah, you see here the right shoulder is not what we really like to see. So it's a very flat right shoulder, and then we have a very high plateau here. So it's just this bump, which would not qualify for a perfect cycle. But as it is stable, it has one of the highest strength. Yeah, so with 20 compared, I think that's pretty high. So very stable. And maybe we need to set it in context with the 166. But let's start with this. Here we have the confirmation. So that cycle did not really shift. Yeah. So I just wanted to set the context, because that cycle is now showing an upswing. So now, without having the longer count into place, we had our prediction from January into no, sorry, that's wrong. From January into July, we had the upswing into summer, and now we have the sideways move, right? So this is what we discussed, and that cycle is still here. So now the next upswing is valid, at least from a cyclic perspective, is valid. And we have that cycle RSI possible bottom indicating here. I just want to raise caution for that cycle, because this is an upswing in the song Road to Hell. So we really should be careful. It is a cyclic upswing, but if the overall music or tune or rhythm has now changed, we need to dance to another song. And an upswing in a longer term downtrend is always risky. So I would be very careful here with this possible upswing, yeah, in crypto in January. But even after January, that's where the high risk period comes into play for that cycle. Because then we enter anyhow a possible topping period for that dominant cycle in sync, yeah, with our pattern, which needs to complete 3 times the repetition of this cycle until we reach a possible bottom in the next pattern of that. So from here to January is a high risk window of a possible upswing, but again, high risk upswing, because the major trend might now be down, and we have maybe seen already the all-time high, which we will not reach again. And then even in January, it will get more risky due to that cycle. Flying to hell. Yeah, maybe that's also interesting. Okay, but I will get to your comments in a second. So keep the flow with the live chat, please. So that's the current analysis on the daily perspective on Bitcoin. And I think it is very important to update those cycles. What I want to also show you is something which, from a research perspective, is really interesting. I told you that there is this nominal cycle around 200 days, right? So what we could do is we could set another resolution. So in that case, I have built 1 bar out of 4 bars, yeah, which is kind of weekly data series. No, not really, to be honest. No, sorry, that's wrong, because Bitcoin is also trading on the weekends. So here I have just aggregated the data series into 4 bars per bar. And now looking at the, let's move out the indicator here for a moment. It's not, oops, here. So, and that was the point of the analysis, but I will also update this in a second. Now you see here 2 or 3 cycles here in the spectrum, they clearly stand out. I mean, you can spot them by eye. Yeah? 1, 2, 3 cycles here. And there's a cycle with a length of 49 of that frequency and a cycle of 57. Those two here, as can be seen. And just think about those cycles represent the lower bound of that nominal 200-day cycle. So multiply 49 by 4, and you will arrive close to 180, 190. And multiply 57 by 4, you will arrive at 220, 230, something like that. So here, those two cycles, so the nominal 200-day cycle is here visible by its lower and upper bounds. And if you overlay those two cycles into a composite model, it's very interesting what happens on the screen. So let me do this right now. So I hope you get it, but I will make it even bigger. So this looks like just one cycle, right? So you measure from top to top, from top to top, from top to top, or from bottom to bottom. And it looks like that cycle is at some point phased out and at some point amplified to a higher. But it looks like it's just one cycle, right? But these are two cycles. These are two cycles. Around 200 days, but both are overlaid. And they show you a little bit the shift in the length of the lower length and the higher length cycle, overlaid and just seen then as one cycle in another resolution. So if you analyze those cycles on a daily resolution, you will only find the rhythm from top to top to top, so this around 170 to 220 day cycle. If you choose that frequency resolution, you can spot those individual cycles which will make up that round nominal 200-day cycle. And it's even more interesting that you can find that pattern here going back in time as you want. So as I said, this is the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now you can say, yeah, okay, this is sounding a little bit random here. So let's go back to even 2017. So this peak here, right? So we have the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I mean, we should a little bit zoom in. Let me clearly make that visible. Let's go from the previous one. So here we had the previous one, and then from the low point, which is here. So here the count did start, and then we said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we could do this even at the next point here, 2023. 5. Sorry, that's not really visible. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here's the low at that point in time. Here's where everything starts. And not only that, I told you if this is the 5 at the previous top, we go 1, 2, and 3. And here's the low. So this is how that count worked out just in the past as a very quick reminder. And shown here, that's the point I want to make, why cycle analysis is so beautiful, at a complete different resolution. So this is not the 200-day cycle. It is a 200-day cycle, but visualized here with the 49 and 57 bars consolidated into one bar frequency cycle here. So I hope you got the point. So again, we are at that point here, and now if we let's update that analysis also up to today. So let's bring it here. So here we are with that analysis, and you see all 3 cycles are even more visible here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. So 49, 58. So here we are. as I said to you, this is the 5th repetition here at that point. So now we are entering that possible upswing into early January here. But as said, let's be careful with that. And then if you want to forecast for the long-term period, so here is 1, 2, 3. So the 3rd repetition of that cycle is coming late 2026. So it's almost a year to go. It's a year to go, late 2026, until we might see a possible end of road to hell. But I mean, that's pure speculation here, right? So we are just here to do some cycle analysis. That's the purpose. This is the time cycle analysis. We are looking for patterns in time. We want to isolate the important dominant cycles, and we're just looking what that means, projecting those cycles into the future. By all means, this does not mean this will repeat. Yeah, it is just one way on looking on the time axis and dominant cycles in the past in those data series. It can completely be off in the future, as with all research and projections. I hope for sure that message is clear. That's it for today. I wanted to give you that update. And as we are live, as always, I'm happy to take your questions. And let's see what's going on in the live chat section. Okay, let me first try to stay on the Bitcoin-related topics. Swell Chaser Trading, thank you first for being here live. Elliott wave-like cycles move in 5 waves in the direction of the dominant trend and 3 waves in the opposite direction of the trend called corrective waves. Yes, I'm aware of that, and we have discussed that correlation to Elliott wave a lot of times. And it is an interesting area to research. I mean, I'm not finally sure if this is really the same pattern, because the count of 5 and count of 3 is only related to time-based patterns, and Elliott wave is more looking in price move or price-based patterns, which repeat, not time-based. So that's just a little different perspective from Elliott wave and the time-based count of 3 and 5. But I totally agree with you that this is really interesting, that there is a similar count, and maybe it would be even more interesting to overlay the Bitcoin, the Elliott wave count on Bitcoin and those time cycle count on Bitcoin. We are working on that, or I would even propose you could do this kind of research out there. Or if there is someone who is familiar with Elliott wave, I would invite you, if you have something to show in regards to the Elliott wave count, I would welcome that, even to share it here and to overlay it with that pattern. So Swell Chaser Trading, yes, a very, very interesting relation to that Elliott wave count. Yeah, maybe to follow up on your topic here, seems like timing cycles can be lagging or leading indicator. Yeah, that's absolutely right. And if you are able to isolate those situations where you identify it as a leading indicator, I think those are the most important windows we are all trying to identify. Sometimes they are lagging, but my experience at least is that cycles are more often leading than lagging, which is from a sentiment point of view very tough to tackle, because the media is in most cases then in this hype at a cycle top or cycle bottom, while if the cycle is leading, it indicates you ahead of what is discussed in the media that the price might shift. So, and going against the media hype out there is, from an emotional point of view, really tough topic to tackle. So that's my experience with having those leading cycles up front. All right. Yeah. So I mean, Bob 6, hello Lars, with the 18.6 years cycle, and with JP Morgan recently opening the new skyscraper in New York City, is this a sign you consider new NLP? Yes, it is a classical skyscraper topping signal, and for sure the 18.6 cycle is also topping right now. So talking about financial markets, we are in the final stretch of a kind of hype. I think that's what we're all aware of, and no one knows when that hype and then that exhaustion will come to an end. But yes, my answer is yes, we are in a potential market top right now. Already since late summer this year from cyclic perspective. And if you measure the Dow or the S&P or the Russell 2000 in terms of gold or as a ratio compared to other metrics, I also showed that last week, you will realize that we don't make new highs if you have a more broader view on the economic cycle. Okay, so I don't know if we will have a mobile app at this point in time, so it's not in the making right now. At least that's what I can tell for sure. But it's not that we don't want to have a mobile app. It's more that there's so much information you need to gather on the screen if you follow the cycle analysis I've done here, so that it's really hard to pack this on a mobile app just to have everything on a small screen. So this is where we are tackling more. If we find a way from a visual perspective to make that fit into this small screen, maybe mobile app will come. But anyhow, it works on the browser. So if you like the browser on your phone, it's becoming too small. Yeah, so it's a topic for the future, I agree, but not planned right now. All right, thank you for being with me today. It was a nice session. I hope you got something out of this session, and I would like to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, become a member. Richard will follow up tomorrow with the Cycles TV episode, so stay tuned, join us, spread the news. We try to spread the education on cycles.